What's up guys, welcome to this 6 Android app tutorial video where we'll be creating the friend system for our social media app. We'll start by implementing the search bar functionality. Following that, we'll give the users the ability to send friend requests, accept requests, and unfriend other users. This will be the most complex system of our app. It will be very exciting because you will learn a lot in the following 2 videos. So let's go ahead and get started by creating our search bar functionality. So to do that, we already have our Butterknife injection here in our main activity, and what we need to do now is enable the on click for it. So we will just highlight this, right click generate Butterknife injections, and we are going to check the on click for our search too. So inside of here we are going to write the following code to start our search activity, which we have yet to create. Okay, so this will take us to our search activity once the search view is clicked, or the image view. So let's create this search activity now. We'll right click our package activity and go to the gallery, select empty activity, and name this search activity. Okay, we'll give it a second to build. Alright, so this is our search activity here, and inside of here we're going to need a few things, which include a toolbar, a recycler view, and an adapter. And if we take a look at our app here, when we click on the search view, the icon up here, we're brought to our search activity. Now this is what it's going to look like, and when we type characters, we have our recycler view being populated with the data grabbed from the database. Now in our toolbar here, we have a back arrow, we have a cancel search function, and when we click on a profile, of course, we can view the person's profile. Okay, so let's get started with this. Now the first thing that we're going to do here is simply highlight this and right click and generate our Butterknife injections. We can hit confirm. Okay, now let's add our search adapter. So here we're just going to type, alright, we can hit alt enter on our array list and our user class as well as our list, but we don't have a search adapter, so let's quickly create one. In our adapter right here, our adapter package, we're going to say new Java class and call it search adapter. We can hit OK there. I'm just adding that to my GitHub. If you don't have Git set up, you won't get that message, so you don't need to worry about that. Alright, now we can import it here. And underneath in our OnCreate method, we're going to add some code here. Alright, so all we did here is set up our toolbar. We set its icon to the arrow back, which we see right here. And thus, when our back arrow is clicked, we are starting our main activity, and we're going back to our main activity, how this works here. Okay, now let's move on and do a little work with our search adapter down here. Alright, so what we did here is just initialize our search adapter here. However, we haven't created a constructor in our search adapter class, so this is going to display as an error. Then we created our layout manager and assigned our search recycler view, our layout manager, and we're setting our adapter here to the search adapter. So let's go and create this constructor here so we can get rid of this error. So inside of the search adapter class, we will extend the recycler view adapter, and then we'll create the OnCreate view holder override as well as the constructor. Alright, so we've created our constructor as well as a few variables here. Now we can all enter on the user and the context, but before we import our recycler view, we have to do a few things first, which include going over to our Atom folder into the res file and importing or getting the code that we need for our activity search.xml. So let's open up Atom really quick. Go over to the res folder. Inside of layout, we're looking for activity search.xml. Just take this code here, give it a copy, and open up our activity search.xml and paste it into here. Now I've already pasted, as you can see, so yours will look exactly like this. So back to our search adapter. Now let's actually create our own view holder inside of our search adapter class. But we can hit Alt Enter here and go to another Alt Enter and implement method. Let's implement these three methods here. And this is going to be errored out here, and that's because we need to create our own view holder. Now let me write some code in here first, and then we'll create our view holder. Alright, so you see that we have essentially just initialized our view, and I have passed this item search list. Now to get this out of an error, all we do is just hover over it. Oops, I accidentally imported that. I will hit Control Z there. We don't want to import that yet. So we can go like this, highlight it, and hit Alt Enter, and we're going to create a layout resource file, item search.xml. And we can hit OK on that. And I'm just importing to Git. Now let's go to our Atom and look for item search list. So we can take this code here and copy it, and we'll just paste it into our item search list. Alright, perfect. Now we have that there, and let's actually, I believe we can highlight this and generate Butterknife injections. Now we're going to use the image view, text view, and relative layout, so let's generate those really quick. And we will use those and put those inside of our class that we're going to make right here. So underneath our get item count, we're going to create a class called view holder. Alright, and now we're just going to take these variables right here, copy them, or cut them, and paste them into here. And now what we're looking to do is create a constructor for this class here. So let's do that. And we're going to call the butterknife.bind function, which we actually need to, it looks like we haven't called it anywhere here, so we're good to go, and we just say Butterknife. Alright, so we're all set here with our inner class, and now this error should go away as well. So this looks really good here, and now let us go back to our search activity class and finish up the code in there. Alright, and we're all set in our OnCreate method, so we can just clean this up here. And now we're going to override the OnCreate Options menu. So what we can do is right click Generate, and we'll be looking for override methods. Now we can click this A to Z button up here to get it alphabetized for us. And OnCreate Options menu should be underneath activity. No, further down. Really need a search functionality for this. Oh, it's not even alphabetized. Okay. OnCreate Options menu right here. Alright, so in here basically what we're going to need to do is create our search text, or actually just simply set up our search text in our search view. And then we're going to also create our close button, our search close button right here. So let's write this code. Okay, and actually after this we need to pause really quick because this search one is not being defined. And so where we're needing to find this is in our menu item. So let's go and check that really quick inside of our menu, and we're looking for the search view.xml. So we have errors here. It looks like we need to recopy and paste the code, which is in our res folder in search view.xml. We can just give this a copy and just paste it into here. Oops. Okay, so now we have our search one variable here, and the error has went away. Alright, so let's continue here. Alright, right here we're just setting up our edit text to have a hint color as well as a search close button. So if you get any of the errors here, like if this is red for say, even though you do have it located inside of your colors.xml like here, A lot of the times, all you need to do is just highlight it, hit Alt Enter, and go with a suggestion, which is likely to be just erasing it. And once you erase it and put it back, then the error will go away. So that's only for you guys that are getting the random errors. Sometimes Android Studio does that. Anyways, let's move right on to our onQuery text submit. So this is going to come from an onQuery text listener. Now, when we type into our app, we have a text listener, and the listener is going to search our database as we type. So let's make this method, and I will explain in just a second. Alright, so this is what our completed function looks like. Now we have set our onQuery text listener to our search view right here, and inside of here we overrode the onQuery text submit and text change methods. Inside of our text submit, we have a search from DB method that we still have to make. And inside of our query text change, we take in a parameter, our uh, query string, and if the query length is greater than 2, then we are going to search from DB but apply the false argument here, which we will see how that works in just a second. Else, then we are clearing the adapter. So now let's go and make our search from DB functionality. So underneath here, we will write, I'm going to give some space. Okay, so here we go with our search from DB function. Now this is like a lot of the other functions that we use, for example, in our profile activity that talk to our PHP, which will get data from our database. So here we've created a instance of the user interface. We have initialized our params to a map, and we are going to put the queries into the map, and then we're using our retrofit callback. We are getting our response, and then we have an on failure down here. Now we have this search that needs to be created inside of our user interface class, so let's quickly do that right now. Over in our util, or REST, sorry, services and user interface. Now in here we will create a new method called search. Alright, so this is our new method, and notice that it is get instead of post. So we're all set with this, and now we can go into our PHP file and quickly add this code here. And we're going to add it to the user.php file. So inside of here, I'm just going to exit out all these. We can close this res here. And inside of our user.php file, we will create the method for searching. Alright, so inside of our search method, of course, we are including our DB connect. We are assigning our keyword to the keyword that we passed over here. Inside of our search adapter, search activity, we pass the keyword right here, which will be our query. And then we made our statements. We're selecting from user, where the name is like our keyword, and we're executing, and then fetching. So I'll just clean this up right here. Okay, so this is fine, and we can hit Control S now. Alright, so back in our app, we have completed our search activity. Now we still have an error here, and it looks like we have an extra brace. So we're all set here. Now let's run the app and see if it works. Alright, it looks like we have an error. Now let's go to our run. It's a pretty big error. But at the top here we see in our main activity, it looks like Butterknife might be giving us a problem here. 54, yeah. So let's go and check our Gradle files. Now we of course have our Butterknife dependencies. Now okay, so it looks like here actually we need to specify that we're going to use Java version 1.8. I have no idea why it's giving us this error now, even though we've been using Butterknife, but let's specify that we're using Java 8. Alright, that looks good. Now let's sync this up. Now we will give our app a run. Alright, and it looks like that was actually the problem. So now let's go and look up here at our search. Alright, perfect. We're taken to our search activity and we have our back arrow, we have the closing X. We are also able to type into the edit text. However, the search functionality won't work quite yet because we have to make an adjustment or add some code rather to our onBind method in our search adapter. So let's take a look at that there. Okay, so in the onBind view holder, we essentially want to populate our recycler view with the data that was sent to us from the database. All right, so if we actually look and see here in our run, what we just ran, we have a 200 OK to our search PHP file, and we're returning all of the profile data here. So that's really good, and now let's just display it in our recycler view. Okay, actually I'm going to just pause for a second because something came to my mind while I was typing, which is this view holder here. We actually don't need this search adapter.view holder. We can just say view holder, and inside of our get item count, we don't want to return 0. We actually want to return users.size. So we're just going to say return users.size. Okay, now let's get back to the code in our onBind view holder. Alright, so inside of here, essentially we just created a user right here, and we are able to set the text by calling the get name of our user, and if the profile URL isn't empty, so that means we have a user, then we are simply loading their information into our recycler view. So now let's clean this up a sec, and we can actually give this a try and see if it works. Alright, so we click our search field and we see that it works perfectly. Now we can do this with any user, but what we notice here is that actually when we click it, it does not respond to a click. So let's quickly add the ability to click onto the holder and go to the person's profile. Okay, so here we're just getting our input from the user, or the input will be a click. And upon getting that click, we will start our activity, profile activity, and we are going to put extra the user ID here. Alright, so this looks good. Now, let's see, we can give this a run. Okay, so here's our app. Now, if we search, we can click on our own profile, and it leads us to our page, which is really nice. But let's see about when we click on someone else's profile. Okay, so if we click on someone else's profile, it's just going to keep on loading and loading. So what we need to do to fix that is create a method called load others profile, and we can start by putting that inside of our user interface. So underneath our search functionality here in user interface, we will write this code here. Alright, this looks good, and now let's go inside of our profile activity and add this method there. So inside of our profile activity, we are going to look at the OnCreate method. I'm just cleaning this up really quick. Okay, so right here we have if we're going to a profile and it's the user that's using the app, then we set our state to 5, which we know is going to load our own profile. But what we have here in our else statement, if it's someone else's profile, we need to load theirs. So let's uncomment this out, others profile, and we can create this method at the bottom here. Okay, so underneath let's see, this goes to, okay. So underneath here, we will create the method called others profile. Okay, so here in our others profile, it's basically the same thing that we were doing in the other methods to get our data from the database. We create an instance of user interface, assign our params, use the callback enqueue, And inside of here, we are just getting all their information, at least their cover URL, and then we are showing user data, which will be all the information. And then inside these if statements, we are basically assigning our case where if we are friends with a user, then we will display in the edit text button, um, if we open the app right here. So this button, if it's going to be your own profile, then it will display edit. If you guys are friends, and so on. Okay, so this method looks good, and now we need to go inside of our PHP and create the load others profile method. So let's open up Atom, and inside of our user.php, we will create the following method. Alright, so in our load others profile, again, same thing. We are assigning our variables here to the ones that we passed in, creating our statement, and then we are executing. Then over here, we're getting our state. Initially, it's going to be 0, and our request, we are checking the request with our user ID and profile. And then if the request is going to be sender, we are setting the state to 2, else we're setting the state to 3. So basically we're saying what is the relationship to the person that's clicking the send button in here. So if we're friends or not. So like right here, you see we're friends, and for just simply unknown, which means we can't send them a friend request. So this looks good. Let's hit Control S. But before we run the app, let's actually comment out this code here because we don't have the functionality yet implemented in our Android Studio for this to be able to run. And we can just go ahead and set our current state to 4, which means we are unknown to each other. Hit Control S and we'll go back to Android Studio, open our app and give it a run. And once we get to the main screen, we can go up to our search functionality. We will type the name of a user, visit their profile, and we see that everything works perfectly. We even have our little send request button there because we're not friends yet. Now let's actually go and back to our Atom, and we'll just reset this code. We'll assign this to 0 and undo those comments, and we'll start making this functionality right now. So to start creating this functionality, we need to go to our localhost phpMyAdmin. We can open it up just by typing localhost/phpMyAdmin once your XAMPP is of course running. And we are going to create a few new tables. Now the first table we're going to create is going to be called request. So we'll say new, and we will call this request. Now I'm going to fill out this data here. Okay, so this is our table here, and now we're going to take this request ID here and make it a primary key. So we'll hit primary, hit OK, and then we're also going to auto increment it. So we can go ahead and hit save. Now the next table that we have to make is going to be called friends, and this is going to have 4 columns. So we'll go over here new, and we'll say friends. Now we are going to add our data here. Okay, so this is our friends table, and now of course we need to make this friend ID a primary key, and we are going to auto increment this as well. So go ahead and hit save here. We need to take our friend ID here and select user ID and profile ID and make them unique. So hit this button here. Okay, now it's been executed successful. So let's go in and create this notifications table. Alright, so here goes our notifications table, and we are going to again make our notification ID primary and give it an auto increment as well. So we can save that. Alright, now that that's done, we got all of our database stuff out of the way, and we can go right into our creation of the send request feature. So when we saw our app last, it's not open right now, but when we looked at our app last, we saw that when we visited someone else's profile, we saw the send request button. So let's start implementing that as well as other features like unfriend and accept request and so on. So I'm gonna clear these out here. We need the profile activity. Okay, so in profile activity, we are going to look for our profile options button. Not this one. Okay, right here. So in this method here, or in our onClick listener rather, if our current state's 5, then we're setting our profile button to do what we did in the last video, which is change our picture, change our cover picture and all that. Now we have to change the button depending on our status with the person that we're looking at. So let's go under here, and underneath builder.show, we will write the following code. Okay, so we've created our option for when the state is equal to 4. So basically that means we're unknown to the person. We're going to set the button to say friend request, and if the button is clicked, then we are going to make this method perform action, do some stuff with our current state given our user ID and the person we're visiting's ID. So now let's create our next state, which is, I believe we can do cancel friend request next. So let's do that. Alright, so here we have the same pretty much exact thing, except we just made our current state equal to 2. So if it's 2, that means we're already friends and we have the option to cancel we've sent them a friend request and we can cancel the friend request. So we'll take care of how that works inside of perform action. So let us do the same for state 3 and state 1. Alright, so here goes our state 3, which we have the ability to accept a friend request if they have sent one. So now let's look at state 1. Alright, so now we have the state where we can unfriend the user if we're already friends with them. So let's create this perform action method, and we're also going to create a inner perform action class that's going to help us in other classes. We are going to be able to access it. So I'm going to get rid of this control F at the top, and at the bottom of our class we can create our perform action function. Alright, so here's our perform action function, and you can see that we have to create it inside of our user interface, which we'll do in a second. And so basically we're doing the exact same thing. We're getting our call from retrofit and in queuing. Then inside of here, basically what's happening is, so we're getting our response.body, and I is basically going to be the current state that's passed in. So you see when we're calling it way up here, wherever it is, right here. So we're passing in our current state, and so say if the state is 4, and that basically means that they're unknown to us right now. Let's go back down here. So if our state is 4, then I will be equal to 4. And in that case, we are going to send them a friend request, and that means we need to change the state to 2, which means we have a pending friend request to them. So that's basically what we're doing, is we're just changing state here once the button is clicked. So for 4, we're changing it to 2 and giving the message request sent, and so on down the line. So this is very straightforward. After that, we're just making a message saying it was successful, and then on failure, and this is the end of our perform action class. So now let's go into our user interface and create this method. Alright, so inside of here, we will write the following. Alright, so this looks really good. We have our perform action, which we'll create in PHP in a second. But first we need to create our inner class called perform action that we can utilize in our profile activity. So in here at the very bottom, we are going to create this class here. Alright, so this looks really good here. Now let's go in and create our perform action API call inside of our PHP. So let's open up Atom here. And inside of here, we are actually going to create a new PHP file. And inside of our app folder, we will create the file called friend.php. And now let's include this inside of our Bootstrap and app.php. So we can copy this paste it here, and we'll just call this friend.php. All right, we can hit Control S. All right, now let's go back to our friend.php, and we're going to paste this following code. Now it's going to be a lot of PHP. Don't worry, you can just go and check the code in the description of the video, and I will explain the fundamentals here, but I won't go through quite all of it. Okay, so here we have our perform action call, and that was made use of, or we created it inside of the user interface.java class inside of our Android Studio. Now all we're doing here is getting the user ID of the person using the app, the profile ID of the profile that we are visiting, and the operation type, which if the button says send friend request, then the operation type will be right here will be for. So for each different operation type, we are performing a different function. So if it's 1, we're going to unfriend. If it's 2, we are going to cancel the request, and so on. So let's just take a quick example of the send request function here. So say that the button said send request, and the operation type will be passed in will be for. So let's go to the send request method. So right here we are taking in the user ID of, again, the user that's using the app and the profile ID of the person we're visiting. All we're doing is calling this insert function, which we've created down below, and it's going to insert into the table requests, and the array that we're sending in here is going to be the user ID. That's going to be our sender, which we created in the database. We're going to insert the profile ID into the receiver, and we're going to insert the date into request date. Now we're also going to do the same thing for our notifications table. However, this code here we don't particularly need, and actually we can't use it because we need to create the notification.php, but that will be in another video. So for now, let's go ahead and comment this code out here, and we can hit Control S. So we'll go over this code when we get to the notifications page. But don't forget, you can check this code out. I left it in the description. You feel free to play around with it, and we'll leave it at that. So now let's open up our app, shrink that, and let's run it and give it a try. Alright, so if we were to go and search for someone, now I've already sent this individual a friend request, but we can just go ahead and cancel the request. And you see that request has been canceled successfully. We can also go and send a friend request. So when we send the friend request, the button is updated to request sent, and it said successful. Now if we go back and just reload it, we see that we can cancel the request. So now let's go inside of our database and look that the request has been sent. So inside of our database, we can go to the notifications table and just refresh it. And we see that we have a new notification coming from the user that I'm logged into, or I'm sorry, going to the user that we're at from the user that I'm logged into, and the type has been for. We don't know each other, and the notification time is there too. So we won't see anything in the friends table because we haven't accepted the friend request yet, but we can go ahead and cancel the request, and it looks like it deletes perfectly fine. So this video is getting a little bit long. I'm gonna end it here, and we'll pick up in the next video where we will make the friends list that we saw at the beginning of the video, as well as the ability to accept friend requests from the same page. So thank you guys very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you in